Evening, KJ, Diane, Douse. Welcome. Welcome, Reed. Welcome, JRF. Yeah, 2 in a row. Maybe that's a bit too bright. I'm just playing with the lighting. I guess that's good enough. Hello, Bella and Gautam. Welcome. I'm very shiny today because I just shaved. All right. Hello, Sindhu. Welcome. Hello, Steve. We'll give it another minute or two and we'll get started. Hello, Andrew. Welcome. And Christine, of course. We have what, 3 or 4 couples in the community. It's always nice to see that when couples come to the sessions together. Morning Monastery experience that sometimes half the people at it are couples. All right. Then the next best thing is if we have what's her name? Elaine brings her daughter on sometimes. You get the fun for the whole family, as they say. Dhammapalooza. All right, I think we have enough people to get started. Hello, Catherine. Welcome back. Good to see you again. Okay, so let's get started. We'll start today by chanting the Noble Eightfold Path. I think that's a good place to go. It's going to be on page 61. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Ariyo attangiko maggo. Ayanko sa majjima patipada tathagatena abhisambuddha chakku karani jnana karani upasamaya abhinyaya sambuddhaya nibbannaya samvattati. Ayang eva ariyo attangiko maggo sammadditti dukke jnanang dukkha samudaya jnanang dukkha nirodhe jnanang dukkha nirodha gamaniya patipadaya jnanang samma sankappo nekkamma sankappo avyapada sankappo avihingsa sankappo samma vacha musavada veramani pisunaya vachaya veramani Parusaya vachaya veramani sampappalappa veramani samakamanto panatipata veramani adinna dana veramani kame sumichachara veramani samma ajivo micha ajivang pahaya samma ajivena jivakang kapeti samma vayamo samvarappanappadanang anupanang papakanang akusalanang dhammanang anupadaya chandang janeti vayamati viryang arabbati chittang pagganhati padahati pahanap padanang uppannanang papakanang akusalanang dhammanang pahanaya chandang janeti vayamati viryang arabbati chittang pagganhati padahati bhavanapadanang anupannanang kusalanang dhammanang uppaddaya chandang janeti vayamati viryang arabbati chittang pagganhati padahati anurakkanappadanang uppannanang kusalanang dhammanang tittiya samosaya biyo bhavaya vipulaya bhavanaya paripureya chandang janeti vayamati viryang arabbati chittang pagganhati padahati sammasati ekaye kayanupassi viharati atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abijja domanasum Vedanasu vedananupassi viharati atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abhijja domanasum chitte chittanupassi viharati atapi sampajano satima vineya loke abhijja domanasam Dhammesu dhammanupassi viharati atapi sampajano vineya loke abhijja domanasum Samma samadhi viviccheva kamehi viviccha akusalehi dhammehi savitakang savicharang vivekajang piti sukkang pattamajjanang upasampajja viharati vittakka vicharanang vupasamaya ajatang sampasadanang chetaso eko dibhavang avittakang avicharang samadhijang piti sukkang dutthiya jhanang upasampajja viharati Pitya cha viraga upekka kocha viharati satto cha sampajano sukhang cha kayena patisang vedeti yantang arya chikkanti upekka ko satima sukha viharati ti tattiya jhanang upasampajja viharati Sukhassa chapahana dukhassa chapahana pubbeva somanasto manasanang attangama adukkang sukkang upekka sati parisuddhing chattuttajanang upasampajja viharati. All right, let's do the English. The Noble Eightfold Path. This is the middle way awakened to by the Perfect One, which gives rise to vision and knowledge, which leads to peace, wisdom, enlightenment, and nibbana, the Noble Eightfold Path. Right view of suffering, of its origin, of its cessation, of the way leading to the cessation of suffering. Right intention of renunciation free from craving, of goodwill free from aversion, of compassion free from cruelty. Right speech, abstaining from false speech, abstaining from malicious speech, abstaining from harsh speech, abstaining from useless speech. Right action, abstaining from taking life, abstaining from stealing, abstaining from sensual misconduct. Right livelihood, giving up wrong livelihood, earning one's living by a right form of livelihood. Right effort, determination to prevent unarisen evil, unwholesome states of mind from arising by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Determination to abandon evil, unwholesome states of mind that have already arisen by making an effort, arousing mind, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Determination to develop wholesome mental states that have not yet arisen by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Determination to maintain and perfect wholesome mental states already arisen, and not to allow them to disappear, but to bring them to growth, to maturity, and to the full perfection of development by making effort, arousing energy, applying mind, and striving. Right mindfulness. One dwells contemplating the body in the body, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. One dwells contemplating feeling and feeling, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. One dwells contemplating mind and mind, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. One dwells contemplating phenomena and phenomena, ardent, clearly comprehending, mindful, having subdued longing and grief for the world. Right concentration. Quite secluded from sense pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states of mind, one enters and dwells in the first jhana, which is accompanied by applied thought and sustained thought, with rapture and happiness born of seclusion. With the subsiding of applied thought and sustained thought, one enters and dwells in the second jhana, which has internal confidence and unification of mind, is without applied thought and sustained thought, is filled with rapture and bliss born of concentration. With the fading away of rapture, one dwells in equanimity, mindful and discerning, and one experiences in one's own person the bliss of which the noble ones say, happily lives one who is equanimous and mindful. Thus one enters and dwells in the third jhana. With the abandoning of pleasure and pain, with the previous disappearance of joy and grief, one enters and dwells in the fourth jhana, which has neither pain nor pleasure, purity of mindfulness and equanimity. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. All right, friends. Oh, we've quite jumped since I started chanting. Let's see, who have we joined us here? Jose. Welcome, Jose. Welcome, Gray. Good to see you all. So, friends, we have come to another Dhammapalooza, another Monday night, right? I believe last weekend was the Super Bowl, so there's no more competition for Dhammapalooza, right? Nobody can use Monday Night Football as the excuse. Now we're the only show in town on Monday nights. Even Dhamma-wise, I think we're the only show in town. So, welcome to Dhammapalooza, our 2-hour community festival of Dhamma. Hello, Miranda. I think this is a name that is new. Miranda is a pretty unique name. I would have remembered a Miranda. So, welcome, Miranda. Welcome to join us. Good to see you today. And you're just in time because we're just really getting started with our 2-hour festival of Dhamma. So we've done some chanting. Later on, we'll do some meditation. In between, who knows? We'll see how it goes. This is why one of the great things about Dhammapalooza is that each time it's different, right? If you notice, when I start the stream, I just say Dhammapalooza and the date. Because I don't know we don't know what's going to happen. Right? When I end the stream, then I put in the title, what happened, right? So that is the greatness of this event because it is community guided, right? Community led. This is not just come and let's listen to Bhante J just talk and he always says exactly what he's going to say and nothing else, right? That's not what this is about. This is a community event. That being said, you know that please talk to each other in the chat. Say hello to each other. You know, it's great to see when everybody comes in and everybody says hello and good evening, good morning in the morning sessions, things like that. That's a great thing, right? We are building community here. That's what this is about. Building community, coming together to share in the Dhamma with each other, right? So if you're typing in the chat, if you're talking to each other in the chat, that's not interrupting me. That's not being disrespectful. No problem. The other thing is, for now, right, for the next couple of minutes, I'll keep an eye on the chat. And if you have any questions you'd like me to try and answer, if you have any topics you'd like me to discuss or the community to discuss, if you have any suttas you think we should read, that's something that I just realized, well, I should use that as an option. Like maybe somebody says, well, let Bhante, let's read such and such sutta. I wanted to hear you give commentary on it or something like that, right? I mean, as long as it's not a ridiculously long one, we can do it. If you have these questions, Douse is saying, "Oh no, Bante is opening the Pandora's box." We'll see, Douse. But so, if you have any questions, any topics, anything you'd like to discuss, type it in the chat. I'll keep an eye out for the next couple of minutes. And if nobody has anything, well, then I have suttas for us to read. And as always, I always come prepared. And I could always just pick a topic on and give a talk on the fly. That's what I'll do sometimes. No, Adriana, it's the same. Maybe it's just that I'm over lighting. I have more light on me than before. But where was I going now? Yeah, quality looks better because of the lighting. People, as a former photographer, I can tell you this. People really overestimate the quality of a camera and underestimate lighting. Lighting is very important when it comes to these kind of things. All right. So this is where we're at. Let's see. I think Jose has a question. So if you have a question, a topic, something you'd like us to discuss, type it in there. Jose, I have a question. What's your view about the belief that if you think positive and avoid negative thinking, the universe gives you what you want, whatever it is? Okay. So I think there's two philosophies kind of mixed in there. You have like the power of positive thinking there and getting something from the universe. Like I remember 20 years ago, my mom getting this video called The Secret, right? And that's kind of when this whole thing started of like manifest what you want into the world, right? I don't know anything about that. What I do know is if you have a goal and you work towards that goal, well, then the chances are you can get there, right? There's a wonderful quote is like, one thing I do know is that you don't get what you don't aim at, right? So that's kind of putting that aside, right? So you do have to kind of have a visualization, have an aspiration, like me with Colorado, right? It's like, I have to have a kind of vision, right? I made a video on the YouTube channel just a week or two ago, half-hour video explaining my vision for what I want Maggasekha to become, right? And so you need that kind of thing. You need a vision. But you also have to understand, well, listen, I don't know if it's going to turn out that way. I'm going to do my best to try to get to that point. But I don't know. So like you can't, if you're expecting the universe to give you something just because you wish for it hard enough, to use the Buddha's famous words, this is not to be had by wishing. Now, positive thought though. Before I was a Buddhist, after like my early years of college, right? Because high school was like the worst time of my life, without a doubt. I hated high school. I was always very negative, depression and things like that. And I still have, I still kind of have the skeleton of depression comes in and rears its ugly head on me every once in a while, even still today. But nowhere near like back then. And I didn't know it like I know it now. I've mastered understanding it in my mind, or at least close to mastered it. Maybe not grand mastered it, but I've mastered it. So I just decided it's like, I don't want to be this negative, sarcastic person. Remember, those of you who heard me talk, I said, humanity is a virus and we're better off dead, and all these kind of like really negative, aversive things, right? And I was like, I don't want to be that person anymore. That's really not me. I didn't know who I was, but I kind of knew that's not me, and that's not who I wanted to be, right? So I started just kind of trying to act and think more positive. And I even came up with, it took me like a year or two to develop this, but I came up with this positive thought mantra that I still have in my notes to this day. But what I noticed when I started thinking more positive and not letting my mind get overly attached and overly controlled by the negative, is that A, things almost always never turned out as bad as you thought they were going to be. And B, that it actually does work. It actually does because you act more positively in the world, more positive things happen to you. Look at it, metta, the benefits of metta. Practice lots of metta. You're dear to human beings and non-human beings, right? It's this thing about the mind and being positive. And so then another thing I realized was that it doesn't stop bad things from happening. But what will happen is that if I go into a negative situation with a positive mindset, it will be better. It will be 100% better. Without a doubt. And I proved it. And I saw it. And I saw this in my own experience. Right? So I tested it and I saw that being too attached to and letting this negative thinking run roughshod over you and control you doesn't help. It doesn't do anything. It does not do anything but make things worse for you. Right? So I'm actually a big believer in positive thinking. You know what? In the early days, I was so desperate. Some of you who are old enough, you might remember Saturday Night Live from the old days, right? And they had such and such whatever with Stuart Smalley. The young people can YouTube this, and I'm sure it's on YouTube. And it's just like really kind of like, I don't know, flaky, new agey kind of guy. And he's like, and he looks in the mirror. He goes, I'm good enough. I'm smart enough. And God darn it, people like me. Right? And it was a joke. And I actually tried that. Like, I was like, I'd be like, I remember somebody said, where did I hear something like, smile until you really smile. Just smile. No matter what, just smile. And I did. I just started smiling and I started smiling. And then all of a sudden I was really smiling over time. Right? And so I did these things, and it's just like positivity is just always better. It just really is. Now, it doesn't mean that you believe that nothing bad will happen. That's just ignorance. That's stupidity. But still, going into a situation with a positive mind will be better for you. So that's what I have to say about that question there. Louise, we had a bunch of people join, so maybe you joined in the middle of the question, so I'll just read it. What's your view about the belief that if you think positive and avoid negative thinking, the universe gives you what you want? So I answered both of those as two separate questions. All right. Let's see. Oh, chat jumped here. Let me see where we're at. JRF asked a question, but I'm just going to go to the end of the chat here just to say hello, see who's one hell of a guy. Okay, that's somebody brand new. So hello, welcome, one hell of a guy. I think Steve's been with us before. Bhavani, welcome. Bhavani's back. All right, so going back to, Jose's question, now JRF's question. I've been told that stream entry is a nasty accident. By who? That you hope misses you and happens to someone else instead. What? Why? What is needed for a layperson to achieve stream entry? Follow the Noble Eightfold Path. That's how monks achieve stream entry. Follow the Noble Eightfold Path. That is how you attain stream entry. That is how you, because that stream entry, the first three of 10 fetters is abandoned, right? Sakyaditi. I wanted to say Sammaditi, right? View. Sakyaditi, right? Identity view. Silabhata Paramasa, which is belief that rites or rituals in and of themselves will bring you to awakening. And Vichikicha, which is doubt. Right? So if you follow the Noble Eightfold Path, you will start to have insights and experiences that really make you question this whole "this is me, this is mine, this is myself" thing. Right? That's going to happen. That's good. This is why I tell people to keep an open mind when you get into this practice, because if you have this kind of very cynical, closed mind, like, oh, I know everything, this is, all this stuff is bogus or whatever. As soon as you start meditating, if you start you're not going to get deep enough, but even if you do start getting deep enough, a lot of your preconceived notions are going to start to become questionable. You're like, oh, I don't want to face this, maybe. Right? So that your doubts vanish because you've put the Noble Eightfold Path into practice, and you've seen its benefits. You've seen its truth because you've had a glimpse of Nibbana. So he's like, okay, yeah, Buddha's right, 100%. And in my opinion, in my own experience, you can go really far in having very little doubt about the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, even before you're a stream mentor, because I don't claim stream entry. And in all honesty, I don't doubt the teachings anymore. I really don't. I still have doubt, though. I have doubt that I can become sometimes, like, I was like, man, I've been doing this for a long time. Like, maybe I can't become awakened, right? Sometimes that voice comes in my mind, right? It's like I don't doubt the Buddha and the big disciples, right? All those the Arya Sangha that's gone before me, but like, can I become Arya Sangha? I don't know. That's good. So I'm not a stream mentor yet, right? Because I still have doubt. Right? All of these things and reliance on rules and rituals. You go through you follow the path and you see, no. This is not what the path is about. This is a misunderstanding of the path, if anybody thinks this way. Right? So this is how you develop stream entry. This is how you become awakened. The Noble Eightfold Path. It's just one path. That's all. In that way, it makes it easy. Right? And all of the teachings are all in that Noble Eightfold Path. They're all there. So to become a stream mentor, to become a once returner, a non-returner, to become an arahant, to become nothing at all, as like Ajahn Chah would say, don't become anything. Follow the Noble Eightfold Path. I don't get anybody. I don't know where this whole nasty accident thing is. If you know and you feel okay sharing, I'd like to hear anybody who might have said that, because it's like I don't know. At least in Buddhist circles, that's like the Bhante Ji who ordained me, my preceptor. He would say, stream entry is a money back guarantee. This is like, once you become a stream mentor, you're locked in, right? No more hell realms, no more realms of woe. And even if you're the most lazy stream mentor, you're awakened within 7 lifetimes. That's a pretty good deal. That's, I don't know who would not want that, unless it's somebody who's really attached to their identity and their sensual pleasures, and they're not anybody on the path, I don't think. Boy, this is I guess this is going to be a Q&A one because, and it's okay though. There hasn't been a Q&A Dhammapalooza in a long time, but there's a lot of questions. This happens every once in a while. Bhavani says, question, knowing anatta and anicca, how can a layperson lead normal duties in life? Well, anatta and anicca are there. They've been with you. They've been there the whole time you've been alive. They're there, right? You've maybe you've not even heard of, like me as a Westerner, right? My first 25 years of life, I never heard of anicca and anatta, but they were still there, right? They're still there, and I lived my life. They're still there. I was just ignorant of them. And because I was ignorant of them, and I still am, I'm not awakened, right? I'm still, I'm less ignorant of them, but I'm still ignorant because I'm not awakened yet. And so I still live my life just as this is the nature of reality. I still live my life, and I still cause myself lots of suffering because I didn't really fully understand them. But I still live life. I went to work, I went on vacations. I dated. I was married, years ago. All these, still live life. Like it's important to kind of understand. Like the Buddha talks about this, and also Ajahn Chah talks about this. There's this kind of, there's two levels. There's the mundane and the transcendent, right? The people who start to glimpse the transcendent, in my experience, both from my own experience in my own practice and my own insights, and also from other people that I've spoken to and met and observed, they just live. You understand things, right? You start to understand, I thought these thoughts were me, but now they're not. Now I don't have to accept them, right? You live in the world, but you're happier. You have more peace, more contentment, right? That's all. It's not like, you have these insights or whatever, and you're just kind of like, well, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. This is weird. Like, how do I live? No, you live. The Buddha became awakened and lived another 45 years, right? Wandering around. He went to the bathroom when he had to go to the bathroom. He slept when he had to sleep, the body, all these things. He did all that regular stuff, right? And he gave a heck of a lot of Dhamma talks, right? So you just live. It's not it's not like this big difference. It's just that the way you understand the world and the way you interact with the world is different, because you're doing so out of less ignorance with more insight. And so therefore, you're creating less suffering for yourself. That's all, right? How do you live it? You just go about your duties. That's all you do. Right? I mean, when I first started having my insights, the first time I really, had the understanding that my thoughts weren't me, and it was such like a, whoa. I was at work. I was on my break at work. I was walking around, and I had this major insight. And then I went back in, and I continued on with my job. That's the way it goes, right? I mean, it's not that all of a sudden you just can't live in the world anymore. It's just you just live, but you live better. That's all. How can a layperson lead normal duties in life? Follow the Noble Eightfold Path. Take care of your relatives. Try to live your have a livelihood that is conducive to your benefit and the benefit of others, and doesn't cause you suffering. And that's it. I don't know what else to say. I'm like, life is life in that way. Oh boy, there's lots of chat. Very good. I'm very happy to see so much chat in here. One hell of a guy. I like that. One hell of a guy says, when I do metta, where should I focus my awareness? On the metta feeling in my chest, in my head? So, 10 different teachers are going to teach you 10 different ways. For me, when I practice metta, I'm not focusing on my body. It's not like I'm practicing mindfulness of breathing, where I just focus on, my breath. Now, in the early days, in my lay days, the first, 6 or 7 years of my practice, when my metta was powerful, and I also had really strong feeling related to it, I wouldn't get attached to the feeling. I wouldn't focus on it. I would just recognize and understand it's there. And that would be kind of like my guide that I was doing it right. But then that went away, and I spoke to Bhante G about it, because I was worried about it. I was like, I used to really enjoy, because I was too attached to it. I used to really enjoy this blissful feeling of metta. And so I suffered when it went away. And Bhante G, and I've seen other teachers say since, this is, it can go away. It's not about the feeling. It has nothing to do with the feeling, right? Yeah, that's a side effect of metta. It can arise. Don't get attached to it, right? So when we practice metta, and now again, it also can depend on what kind of metta you're doing. Like if you're trying to practice metta for one particular person, you can also kind of do a little satipatthana in there as well, because what you can notice is if you are really focusing on, say somebody who is abusive towards you or treats you poorly, and you want to practice metta for them, right? As you're doing it, your mind will react a certain way. Your body will react a certain way, right? And so you'll be able to get cues of your, if you want to say trauma or something like that, you'll be able to get cues of, of how that metta is working and what kind of things it's bringing up, right? Because you're practicing metta towards that specific person. But almost always I'm practicing metta and using Mahagada Cheto Vimutti, which is exalted release of mind. So I'm never focusing on one person. I'm just visualizing, right? And having the metta go out. So I'm not really focused on my body. I'm not trying to make it a samatha practice, which it can be. You can practice, you can kind of practice metta by practicing metta and focusing on your breath or focusing on something or another. I'm not really familiar with that, and I don't think it's not really a majorly popular thing that there's a lot of people that do it. Bhante Analio years ago said that he practices metta instead of mindfulness of breathing for his samatha practice. So he might be a good place to check. I'm not sure, but that's, I think, the best I can answer for that. Steve asks, I have been Buddhist curious for many years and have been increasingly investigating and meditating regularly since COVID lockdown. I've been listening to Dhamma talks avidly. He came up against the chat limit, like it's Twitter or something. Okay, here. Adriana says that she was a fan of The Secret. Okay. I have been listening to Dhamma talks avidly, especially yours and Ajahn Achalo and various others. I've discovered a small monastic community just an hour or so away who have been closed since COVID. They will open up after their retreat for classes and weekly puja meditation, and I intend to visit, but I am a bit nervous about meeting monks in the flesh. Any thoughts and advice? Yeah. Find a, I guess you probably know, you know some information. So you know that you probably have been on their website, right? So read what, like most places on their website will have like, what to do for your first visit and things like that, right? So that's what I would do. Check out, check this out. Check in, see if you can find any information on that. The other thing I would say is, and this is not necessarily a hard thing to do for most people, because when you're entered into a novel experience, even if you're not a Satipatthana expert, you tend to become very aware in new experiences. And so that's an important thing. So like you practice situational awareness of your environment. You come in, you see there's a bunch of shoes over there, take off your shoes. That's the time to take off your shoes, right? You observe people, observe what they're doing, right? Try to focus on that. And usually what happens is, I don't know, some YouTube thing popped up. Usually what happens is people recognize you're new because you look like a deer in the headlights. I was such a person, especially the first time I went to my first retreat. I had been practicing for 5 years. I was a Buddhist 3 years by that point, but I had never been to a monastery. I had never been to a retreat. And so I was definitely deer in the headlights. And this one guy, I remember these guys. It was a short European dude and a big Indian dude, right? And they just kind of took me under their wing and befriended me. And I was with them the whole weekend, the whole retreat. It was great. That tends to happen. People will recognize when you're new, and they'll teach you about, this is what we do here, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is that for the most part, most monastics are just going to be very chill and open with new people. You have occasionally people will have bad experiences with monks, but most people just have really good experiences with monks, right? In their first initial experience. So part of it is just being able to not be too kind of anxious. Just go, just be open, inquisitive, right? Aware, and just be there. Just observe, and strike up conversations, get to know some people. And then, as the ice breaks, you'll get to know more and more. And then as you go more and more, it'll just become second nature to you. It'll become like a second home, like Bhavana was for me, right? Before the years I would visit before I went to live there and become a monk. So that's what I have to say about that. One hell of a guy says, what is your beliefs on cosmology? Do you think Mount Sumeru is a real place? That's an I mean, it's all speculation, right? It's all, so I don't really kind of know. I don't really have a strong feeling about these kind of things. Um, when the Buddha talks about like Mount Sumeru, I don't know if that's how it's spelled. I don't know. It's not clicking with me if that's the right spelling. But when the Buddha talks about these places, he often talks about it in relation to like they're the 10,000 world systems have 10,000 such and such, 10,000 Mount Sumerus and stuff like that. And it makes me think of like dimensions and things like that. Like in like string theory and multiverse theory, which is obviously just theory. And it's not necessarily fully accepted theory, but like you have this idea of, there's, if the universe is essentially infinite and there's a multiverse, then there's just an infinite number of yous out there. There's an infinite number of Mount Everests, right? So, I mean, is Mount Sumeru a new place, a real place? As it was it one of the mountains in the Himalayas? Probably, yeah. Um, is it as literally tall as like if I think somebody using some modern equivalents of what a yojana might be distance wise, like actually gave like an estimated height of Mount Sumeru, and it was like into space. So it's a really tall mountain. Like, obviously such a place does not exist on this planet. But they didn't, we're talking about 2,600 years ago, before space flights and Google Maps and things like that, to be able to know these things. So I don't know. I'm sure it probably was a real mountain in the Himalayas. Maybe maybe it is Mount Everest. I don't know. Jose says, "How old are you?" In a month and a half, I will be 44 years old. Just about, yeah. No, actually, a little bit more than a month and a half. I'll be 44. Almost halfway to half a century. No, well, I'm more than halfway to half a century, but almost halfway through this decade. All right. Adriana comes with a great quip. Hey, welcome, one hell of a guy. You have a lot to live up to. That's great. So yeah, you got to live up to your name, one hell of a guy. Oh, JRF says that the quote was on Reddit's meditation subreddit. Well, yeah, well, it's Reddit. What are you gonna do? Reed says our meditation is usually hot garbage. Yeah, that can happen. Steve says I don't know even how to pay respects or address everyone. Again, paying respects will be, I don't know what the tradition is or what, like, you're gonna have to learn from them. They'll teach you. Just tell them that you're open to learn, and to observe and to watch how the other lay people bow. Right, and just you can emulate them. Oh boy, Reed, there is a Reddit called Soul Nexus. Oh man, I might have to look at, just glimpse at it just briefly, just for maybe for fun. I don't know. Um, okay, so we're having a discussion here about about various Reddit stream entry, our stream entry. Ay ay ay. Steve says, oh, it's a monastery in the UK. Hartridge Monastery. Yeah, that doesn't give any ring, any bells in terms of its tradition. I find the worldwide online community fabulous, but to meet someone in real life, monks would be wonderful. Yes, true. And maybe in the years to come, you can come visit me in Colorado, but in my real life place. We'll see if that happens, or wherever I might have a real life place. All right. Still talking about Reddit. JRF is like, but I have nowhere else to go. Like that old movie, Officer and a Gentleman. And the one guy's saying, quit. And the other guy's, I ain't got nowhere else to go. Well, JRF, maybe you can join our Discord community. Then you can have at least some. But there's also Dhamma Wheel, dhammawheel.com or org. It's a if you're Theravada, that's a pretty good website. There's a lot of wackiness on there a bit too, because it's a forum. It's an online forum, but it's much better than Reddit. Although I do have to admit, Reddit is a lot better now than it has been in many years. Oh, chat moved. Sorry, let me see if I can get to a question here. Yes, Reed found the Maggasekha Discord on Reddit back when I was crazy enough to actually announce it to the public. Now no such thing anymore. Back when it was also open. Adriana says, "What was the insight?" I don't know what insight, because this was probably from 20 minutes ago. Holy moly! Geez, this is some real chatting here. JRF says, good question. This is a very good question. How do you start following the Noble Eightfold Path? Do you pick one and go after it? I feel like I do some already, but have no idea what I am doing if I am being honest with myself. That's okay. That's okay. So it's a lot. It's an 8-spoked wheel. It's an 8-factored path. So in the beginning, it might seem like a lot. But if you're following the 5 precepts and doing some meditation, you're essentially following half the Noble Eightfold Path right there, right? Right action, right speech, right livelihood, right? That's the, sila, right? Right mindfulness, right concentration, right effort. The samadhi division, right? So if you are just doing those 2 basic things, you're following most of the path already, right? So that's very important. Now, as part of developing right view, read the suttas, listen to teachers, monastics read the suttas and give commentary on them so you can understand. And that helps you to get a framework in your mind for your practice, right? It helps you to have a framework in your mind for how to live. And then as you're attempting to live by all of these factors of the path, you become more adept at that, right? It becomes easier, and you become like what I always yarp on all the time when I say you become an avatar of the path, not a blue alien of the path. Although there might be some blue aliens out there practicing the Noble Eightfold Path, I'm sure, a blue alien Buddha. But when we're talking about avatar, in this case, we're talking about as in a personification of a quality or a virtue, right? So you live the Noble Eightfold Path. It's not something that you do on your schedule. Like I meditate 3:30 to 4:30, and then you literally live it in all that you do, right? Then, so it develops into that. All of your actions are informed by the Noble Eightfold Path, right? That is the kind of, adept level, right? You're practicing, you're living by it, and you have to start small. So I would say, so think about it in that way. Focus on your precepts and living virtuously, and focus on your meditation. Also focus in on dana, generosity, right? Because that's also part of the path, right? All of these factors, they're small. I mean, they're not small, I should say. They're easy to understand, easy to at least, if not do, they're at least easy to say, okay, well, I'm going to try to not do this. Let me try to not kill any beings. Right? Let me try to not steal from any beings. Right? Let me try to meditate 5 minutes today. Right? These kind of things. Also, it should be understood, and nobody teaches the Noble Eightfold Path like this, except for the Buddha. Nobody teaches the path like this, though. But you have to understand the path as a quest, a journey, right? Buddha calls it Ariya Pariyesana, the noble quest, right? This is something that you are undertaking, right? Something that you are making an aspiration for. I want to follow this Noble Eightfold Path. I want to live this Noble Eightfold Path, right? I want to be informed by it, right? That's kind of like when you understand that, that's what it is. It's a package of meaning. It's something that can give your life meaning right off the bat. You accept the quest for awakening. You accept the quest of following the Noble Eightfold Path. There's all kinds of meaning for you in your life right there. I like how I said, I say many times about how my therapist, who I had for 4 years, basically at the end joked that he didn't have anything to do in helping me be better. Buddhism did, right? Because he saw the meaning and the path and the quest and how it changed me and how it bettered me, right? And so that should not be underestimated when thinking about the Noble Eightfold Path. And one hell of a guy teaches us about perception. Because at least me, I just saw one hell of a guy. That's what my mind showed me. That's why you have to always be careful about your perception. If you trust your perception, you're going to suffer. You have to investigate it. So thank you, hull of a guy, for pointing that out. Much appreciated. A good lesson. Very good lesson. Rupa's with us. Welcome, Rupa. geez Louise, I'm really looking at this is really from 20 minutes ago? It can't be. I guess it is. Holy moly. Metta, Rupa asked a good question. Metta towards someone who is cruel to you, does it make you weaker in dealing with them? No, it shouldn't. Especially if you're practicing metta for yourself. Because if you're practicing metta for yourself and for the other person, and you are also developing your insight, then you can say, well, you know what? Let me try to act for the good of myself and this other person. Right? And that doesn't necessarily mean sometimes sometimes you have to act in such a way that they're not going to be happy about. Right? But maybe if you've thought it through, maybe it is the skillful, beneficial thing to do, at least in the long term. But I don't believe that metta makes you weaker, especially if you're doing metta to yourself. More questions. Wow. Miranda says, I'm trying to have more peace within me so I can see a way to give back to the world. I think meditation is a big part of this. Do you have any recommendations? Recommendations for what? What kind of meditation, per se? I'm not quite sure. If you could clarify what kind of recommendations, I can answer that. Oh, Douse is 33. I was going to say, wait a second. You guys weren't, I didn't know you when I was 32. All right. Okay. Adriana says, usually I play with, I kind of comment to the comments because there's not that many and it's just to kind of be part of the, but now there's so many, I should just focus on the questions. All right. Bante, how do you maintain sati through the day in a relaxed way? I can find this difficult, especially while on the computer. Well, maintain sati in the day in a relaxed way. I have to think about this question because sati has become like my shadow. You know, like it's just almost always there. Now, that's not saying that I'm always mindful. Only an awakened being is always mindful. Right? And I get lost into something. In my mindfulness, I'm not there. But usually what happens is because I've trained it for so long, I'm not gone from my mindfulness for a long period of time. Usually it'll come back to me. Like you let a stray dog go, you let your dog go wandering in the park and then the dog comes back, or your kid or whatever. So I think that the key here in this question is the relaxed way. It might feel like, especially if you're kind of new to it, it might feel like it's a lot of extra work. And maybe it is, right? Because you're training your mind to do something it's not really used to doing, right? So maybe it is. And so maybe what you need to do is take a break, right? Maybe what you need to do is, if you're practicing, really trying hard to practice sati, just take a break, right? If it's making you more anxious and less relaxed, then it's not helping, right? You have to take a break from it for a little bit. Let it rest a little bit, right? And then go back to it. If it's making it worse for you, right, that's a pretty good lesson. That's a pretty good thing, right? Like the Buddha says, how do you know what's Dhamma? Is it increasing your craving, your ignorance, your desire, or is it lessening your craving, your ignorance and desire, right? So you have to kind of see that and you say, well, okay, I'm actually very anxious and kind of wired up over this. Let me just rest. And maybe you can rest by practicing some mindfulness of breathing, right? Just focusing on your breath. Just chilling, right? Oh boy, Robert Ma comes in with a powerhouse question that I could spend an hour. Wow, we're at 9:07 already. Holy moly. Wow. Okay. Iway. Hello. Welcome. I think that's a name I'm also not familiar with, so welcome. Okay, so how do you deal with the different hindrances in meditation? Do you treat them differently? Yes, yes, yeah. Actually, the Buddha actually gives quite a good number of specifics, and I'm going to give you the link here in the chat on access to insight. There's a web version of a book by a Bhante from years ago who wrote. It's called The Conquest of the Hindrances or something like that. No, the hindrances and their conquest. I'll get the link real quick here. And it gives you, yes, here we go. And this Bhante here, Nyanaponika, a very, very famous, now deceased monk. And I'm not going to go over in detail everything in there, but if you really want to know the specifics, so the Buddha, when he talks about the hindrances, he talks about what's the Pali word? Ahara. Ahara means to nourish or to starve. I think ahara is to starve, right? And so the Buddha talks about what actions do you do that feed the hindrance, and what actions do you do that starve the hindrance, right? He's talking about the causes. Buddha wants us to know, to see that this hindrance has arisen in me, right? Hatred, ill will has arisen in me. Ill will is not present in me. How did ill will arise? And how did it cease? And how to keep ill will from arising in the future, right? He gives tips in that, but also You understand these by investigating it, by observing, by watching, right? You see, oh, before I sat down, I thought or I did X, Y, and Z, and that fed the hindrance that arose while I was meditating. It doesn't even have to be right before. That's usually only the easiest. Sometimes it could be this morning I did X, Y, and Z, and that fed the hindrance that is now arising 8 hours later as I'm trying to meditate, right? So it's really to fully understand and really to fully know, to fully investigate the hindrances. When I sit down to breathe, to meditate, that's what I'm doing. That is my main job. My main job is to follow my breath, but almost always the hindrances will arise. So then the job there is to know, to see, to pierce the hindrance with the laser of insight, to really know that hindrance inside and out. Why? Because to get into jhanas, to get into deep states of samadhi, you need to do that. Because you need to set the groundwork for those hindrances to be temporarily suppressed. Quite secluded from sensual pleasures, secluded from unwholesome states. That's the beginning of jhana, right? So you have to have a mind that is freed from the hindrances temporarily. Only an awakened being is fully freed from the hindrances, right? But temporarily you're freed from the hindrances, and then your mind is clear and calm and peaceful and slips right into the jhanas, right into deep states of samadhi, right? So that's the importance. The hindrances, once you reach it, like, my mind is almost always quiet now. Almost always. Very rarely does the monkey mind come out. It does here and there, but it's almost always quiet. So when I go to sit down, my biggest issue now is sloth and torpor, right? So one hindrance is basically gone for the most part. But now sloth and torpor has taken center stage, and sloth and torpor is way harder of a hindrance to deal with than restlessness and remorse, than the monkey mind. It's way harder because it's so subtle. It's so subtle, and it creeps up at you, right? Restlessness and remorse is the mind is going like, thinking about this. Sloth and torpor is like a ninja. It's like sneaking up, and then you're asleep, right? Or boom, you've gone into like some deep black hole of nothingness, and you've totally lost your mindfulness, totally lost your awareness, right? So you need to keep working, keep understanding the hindrances. Bhavani asks, so Bhavani is talking about the morning, my little altar and morning monastery experience. Why is there a skull besides the Buddha? Because the skull is a reminder of death, right? It's mindfulness of death. It's a wonderful thing. It's right there on the altar for us to remember, to remind ourselves that we're going to die, right? That's what it's for. It's for mindfulness of death, for the development of urgency in our practice. Steve is saying it's a Theravada Thai forest tradition monastery. This is a tradition that calls me. Oh, okay. So I do know a good bit about the Thai forest. And yeah, they're pretty chill. Don't worry too much about it. Definitely just remember that the shoes come off when you go into the building. And even places that are not really open to Westerners per se, like I don't mean like they have a thing on their door that says no Westerners allowed, but I mean they're there for their people, for their culture. It's a Thai place. These places are often centered around the culture, right? They're not really there to teach Dhamma to Westerners and things like that. But even in those places, you will see the occasional Westerner, right? So they are open to the people who are willing to to go there and to be there and to learn a little bit of Thai, maybe learn a little bit about the culture and kind of um, uh, meld into that community in such a way that you're not disruptive. I think I'm asking about what kind of mantras that may help. Miranda's asking. I don't really know any mantras. It's not really something that's part of the practice that I follow. Honestly, Miranda, your question, my answer to your question, right, which was about something about like giving back to the world and things like that. Let me scroll back here. I'm trying to have more peace with me that I can see a way to give back to the world. I think meditation is a big part of this. Do you have any recommendations? So yeah, you practice mindfulness of breathing, practice satipatthana, right? If you practice these, then that will allow your mind to be clear, bright, to allow you to develop insights and allow you to be to have wisdom and mindfulness to know how to best react in any situation. Right? That's the most important thing. The Buddha tells us to go back to the hindrances, right? The Buddha uses the example of like a bucket of water, right? And so the hindrance of ill will is like you're trying to see your reflection in a bucket of water, but the water's boiling, so you can't see your reflection, right? And so the Buddha says, because of this, you cannot see what's good for yourself, you cannot see what's good for others, and you cannot see what's good for both, right? So if you are mindful, insightful practitioner, doesn't mean you're perfect, because you can still make mistakes, even though you might mindfully and wisely come up with a course of action, and it's still not the best course of action, right? But you have to learn from that. You did your best in trying to act in the most skillful way, but just following the Noble Eightfold Path, practicing Satipatthana, Anapanasati, that will be for you to see what is the best thing to do. And JRF has left the building like 18 hours ago, 18 minutes ago. Holy moly. Let's see here. Christine asked 10 minutes ago, Bante, is mindfulness remembering that you are on autopilot and to say to yourself, what is my mind doing right now? That's part of Satipatthana, yes. Right? So we are almost always on autopilot, especially when we're untrained. Right? The Buddha says, there's a wonderful quote from the Dhammapada. Heedlessness is the path to deathlessness. No, heedfulness is the path to the deathless. The deathless is the epithet for awakening, for nibbana. Heedlessness is the path to death. Those who are heedful never die. Those who are heedless are as if dead already. Zombies, the walking dead, right? On autopilot. NPCs, that's the new meme for living in such a way with no mindfulness, no awareness, right? That's most people most of the time. So when you develop the skill and the habit of mindfulness, then you develop more and more taking yourself off that autopilot and seeing things as they are. Not as you want them to be, but to see things as they are. Investigating your mind and body, investigating your thoughts and that which arises. And then you can see, oh, okay, I understand this. Right? This is very important in terms of that. Autopilot is your enemy. At least from if you're just vegging out on the couch, watching some TV or whatever, autopilot. But like if you're like at work or if you're engaging with other people or you're trying to act to be skillful, then autopilot is your enemy. You don't want to, you want to take off autopilot. You want to put on the mindfulness glasses, the mindfulness hat, whatever you want to say. Oh, you guys can't copy a link from that I post? Can you click on it? At least? Because I can click on it. Steve says, thanks, Bante. So in which tradition lineage are you ordained? The monastery I have found is in a sleepy little country village in deepest, darkest Devon. I don't think there are any ties. So it could be maybe Ajahn Chah lineage. It could be Western monks. I don't know. I'm not familiar with it. But there are Thai people in England, though. I don't know about the Devon, but was it like Devon by the Sea or one of those British names? But I don't know. You have to go there and find out and see how it is. My lineage is no lineage. My lineage is the Buddha's lineage. I mean, if you wanted to get technical, my preceptor was Sri Lankan, so you could say I'm from the Sri Lankan lineage, but I'm not. That's one of the gifts that he gave to me. So he would say that we are not Sri Lankan Buddhists, we're not Thai Buddhist monks, we're just Buddhist monks, and that's how I view it. If I have to be attached to a country, then I'm an American Buddhist monk. But I simply think of myself as a Sakyaputta, a son of the Sakyan, Buddhist monk. Yeah, Steve, sure. You can keep in contact with me. And whatever help I can give you, I'll give to you, no problem. I've stayed at Thai forest monasteries and things like that. So I mean, I have some experience with it, but the best thing for you to do is to, when they're open up, just go and just learn, just be there. Just be aware, be mindful, and observe. When you're in a new place, it's often better to be quiet and observe. Right? Just be quiet and observe. All right. So I think I finally caught up. We did an hour and a half, just straight questions. That we haven't done that in quite a while. That was a lot. It's good though. I'm quite happy about that. It's good to see so much community in the chat. All right. But since we are kind of at the end, I think it's good that we do some of our meditation. No problem, Miranda. That's what I'm here for. We're here to be together and to share Dhamma. I'm gonna let excuse me. I'm gonna let Adriana handle whatever this Maggasekha stuff is, but I think we should finish out. with a good 20 some odd minutes or so of, oh, hey, Dennis, good to see you. A good 20 minutes or so of getting some meditation. We have to have some, we have our chanting in the beginning. We have to have some meditation. If we don't do meditation, then it just gets a bad habit. I think this is going to be a minimal guided meditation. We don't need too much of me yapping on. We can I'll just do a little bit to start, and then we'll go. I won't allow you to avoid meditation, Adriana. We can avoid reading suttas, but we can't avoid meditation. We always have to do both. Asking questions, discussing Dhamma, good, and then meditation. Both two things. Okay, so Steve and Adriana, you guys can connect. I think Adriana put the email. So let's close your eyes and set your body up in whatever posture works for you. Take a few minutes scanning through your body from top to bottom, bottom to top. As you go through each part of the body, connect with any sensation or feeling that arises. Try to observe if you see any small feelings of discomfort or small imbalances in your posture. As these small things can lead to bigger imbalances and bigger discomfort and pain later on. So it's good to spend the first part of your meditation scanning and adjusting as needed, so you can minimize having to move later. What is the feeling of the legs pressing against the floor, or the couch or the chair? The buttocks. What's the feeling of the back against the chair? Try to focus in on these sensations and see how they affect the balance of your posture and how they may cause various feelings of discomfort or comfort. When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go and take 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. From here on in, do your best to not control or manipulate the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment it was born and will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. Watch as the body breathes in. Watch as the body breathes out. As you're following the breath, the mind may become bored and will run away across the world or the galaxy to the past or the future. Or a distraction from the outside might arise, and the mind might jump towards it. When this happens, understand that you didn't fail or do anything wrong. This is simply the mind showing you how it works, showing you its craving. Whenever you get distracted away, first you start to notice little bit by little bit, mindfulness returns, a dawning awareness that you're taken away from the breath. When that happens, acknowledge you've been taken away. Practice letting go of the distraction by neither getting agitated and pushing it away, nor by getting attached to it and excited by it and grabbing onto it. Simply by letting it be, and then return to the breath. Whenever you're distracted, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more tranquil and peaceful or not? If so, you may begin to notice more subtle characteristics of the breath. Sometimes the breath is short and shallow, sometimes long and deep. Try to observe how the breath is changing and unstable. Follow the breath as it flows in and out, changing each time. Check in with the state of your mind again. And if it's even more calm and peaceful, you may begin to notice even further subtle characteristics of the breath. You may begin to see the full cycle of the breath. Body breathing in and the pause. And the lungs are full of air. The body breathing out and the pause when the lungs are empty of air. Try to observe this full cycle of the breath as the body's breathing in and out. Slowly Begin to open your eyes, coming back with awareness to the room that you're in, the external, after spending a half hour internal with the mind and body. Can take a minute to contemplate how your mind has changed from before you started to after, and to contemplate anything that arose during your meditation. And so, friends, we have just a couple minutes left. So, as usual, what we'll do is get through our final business and stuff like that, and then we'll do our sharing of merits, and we'll close out. So we have every Monday at this time, 8 p.m. Eastern, Maggasekha. The Maggasekha community has our Dhammapalooza, as you just experienced. So I am a bit of a nomad monk. So sometimes there's no Dhammapalooza, but for the most part, for the foreseeable future, every Monday, this time, as long as I'm in a place that I have internet and can do it, then Dhammapalooza continues. And that should be at least for the next 2 months at least. I don't foresee, as long as I'm alive anyway, I don't foresee any reason to not have Dhammapalooza, but you never know. Who knows? But so Dhammapalooza will continue. Also, morning monastery experience every morning, Monday through Friday, 8 p.m. East or 8 p.m. 8 a.m. Eastern. So in what about 10 hours from now, we'll have our half-hour session in the mornings, and I call it morning monastery experience because it is a little bit of the experience of what it's like to be up in the morning in a monastery and experience the morning session. So there's the precepts, some chanting, and a little thought of the day. So it's a little 5 or 6 minute Dhamma talk, just talking, giving a little bit of Dhamma to start the day with. And as Adriana has posted, and those of you who are interested in possibly checking out our community, you can send an email with requesting an invite. It is a community with a very specific focus. It's not a general Buddhist community. Our focus is the early text, the suttas, both in study and in practice. How do we live by the teachings given to us from the Buddha in the early texts? So we do have a very specific focus. We are not a general Buddhist group, but if that's something that interests you, it might be beneficial to you. And I do have a retreat coming up. Yeah, Adriana says it's not our Buddhism. I do have, Maggasekha does have a Zoom channel, and we do various events on that. So we have a weekend retreat coming up this weekend, Mindfulness of Death retreat. And so if you go to my website, maggasekha.org, and click on the little subscribe button on the left, on the right, you'll get an email whenever I post about various events and things that I'm doing. You can also do the little like and subscribe and click the bell and all that jazz for the YouTube channel, and likewise, you can get email notifications. So friends, I think that's about it for our business. So let's do our sharing of merits. Dukkha patta chane dukkha, bhaya patta chane bhaya, soka patta chane soka, hontu sabbe pipaniyo, etavata chamehi, sampadang punya sampadang, sabbe deva anumodantu, sabba sampatti siddhya, akasata chabumata, deva naga mahiddhika, punyang tang anumoditva, charang rakantu sasanang. May the suffering ones be suffering free, and the fear-struck fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings find relief. May all beings share this merit of ours for the acquisition of all kinds of happiness. May beings inhabiting space and earth, devas, nagas, and yakas of mighty power, share in this merit of ours. May they long protect the Buddhist dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, friends? Until next time, Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. Practice well and be well.